If a terrifying electricity monster began trying to lure your child away to his alternate dimension forever, what would you do? Oliver's had a rough life, and he hasn't even hit puberty yet. As a kid on the spectrum, he struggles to communicate and make friends, and his parents, who just want to fix him, make him feel even more alone. That is, until Scary Larry introduces himself through Oliver's smart devices. Larry just wants a friend, and he's decided that friend is Oliver, whether Oliver likes it or not. I'm going to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat Scary Larry. Come play. Have you ever had the feeling your appliances were watching you, or feared that one day every screen in your house would be used to spy against you? Hang on your nerds, because the demons have gone digital. A nonverbal autistic boy named Oliver uses cartoons to tune out the non-stop bickering of his maladjusted parents. Unbeknownst to him, something sentient is living in his smartphone, watching him like an obsessed fanboy. It's trying to communicate with him, sending him odd podcasts and ebooks about misunderstood monsters. The monster tells him his name is Larry, and that, like Oliver, he gets bullied for being different. All he wants is a friend. Unfortunately, Larry's the sort of friend who will latch onto your leg until you RSVP for that weird LARP weekend he has planned. Or, in Oliver's case, by scaring him half to death. Didn't Monsters, Inc. teach you how to make friends, Larry? Oliver's mom, Sarah, runs to his side. We learn that he has to communicate with a picture-to-speech app on his phone. He tells her something's in the house, and she reassures him there isn't. Easy for you to say, Mom. You didn't receive tickets you never asked for to the dress rehearsal for the Conjuring musical. Larry's not the only stressor in Oliver's life. Mom and Dad, Marty, have been on the rocks since his autism diagnosis, trying to play nice while he's around and forgetting he still has full hearing when out of their sight. It's gotten bad enough that Marty's moving out, which Oliver doesn't quite seem to understand. At school, we fill out our bingo card with the final of the child in a horror movie tropes. Oliver's bullied by the other kids who lure him away with promises of friendship, then make fun of him. Larry watches from within the phone as the bullies torment Oliver before they throw his phone away and it's lost. Without it, Oliver can't tell anyone what happened, and Larry doesn't like being thrown away. Despite his whole deal being that he lives in the phone, we realize that Larry is a free agent, able to move about at will, completely invisible. The phone is really just the easiest access point to a kid that can't warn the adults that Larry is there, stalking their every move. While Marty works the night shift at a local parking lot, he gets a visit from Larry, who makes the lights flicker and uses scraps of paper to materialize when Marty's not looking. Is that more fun than scaring him? I don't see how, unless he knows we are watching through our own smart devices right now, and this little paper trick is for us. Marty finds an iPad in Lost and Found and brings it home for Oliver, who navigates to a camera app with filter options. Larry decides to make his debut. Oliver listens to the clicking joints and popping jaw of whatever old boogeyman is hanging out in his closet, and then forgets it like yesterday's news. I mean, I don't know how many shirts I have that sound like a Wendigo xenomorph, but you do you, kid. By the next morning, Mom has his picture-to-speech app re-downloaded on the iPad, but Oliver never tells her what he saw. Larry takes this as a sign of encouragement.
Your parents want you to be normal. I just want to be your friend.
Oliver, if you only knew how many desperate charlatans and lonely astrologers would pay you top dollar for that bad boy. Hell, I want a nearly hands-free Ouija board. It freaks out Oliver so badly, he ignores his mom's attempts to tell him his dad has permanently gone out to get cigarettes and banishes the iPad to under the stairs. But of course, without the ability to communicate, it only isolates him from the people and picture-to-word app that can save him. And this is the crux of the problem laid out for us in 10 seconds flat. Oliver can't or doesn't communicate. And even though Sarah is super involved in trying to help him learn to speak and write, she just wants to engage on a quote-unquote normal level. We never see either parent try to read between the lines of what Oliver is saying or spelling out on his app. Oh, there's one other thing Oliver didn't hear his mom say. She's planned a sleepover for him with the 3 bullies from his school. Even the ringleader, Byron's mom, hates being around them. We're told that at some point in the past, Oliver became physical with one of the other boys, further isolating him from the community. Afterward, he started stimming, which means making a repetitive physical action or vocalization to help calm him down and regulate his emotions. Mateo thinks it's cool that Oliver can spin in circles without puking, but later, his noise tics while they try to sleep on the living room floor bring out the worst in them. Oliver can't keep his eyes off the stair crawl space where he put the iPad, so of course, the brats investigate, find the iPad, and begin messing with it. Byron starts reading the Misunderstood Monsters ebook.
Larry watches through your windows, which connect his realm to yours. He needs you to know his whole story to turn those windows into doors. What does that mean?
Of course, Sarah hears none of this. Bet she'd sleep through a train derailment. In the darkness, Larry starts to make those clicking insect noises. Oliver turns on his picture filter app. Something appears crouched beyond the dining table. Larry moans and the kids approach instead of doing the natural thing of sprinting up the stairs on all fours to get Sarah. They watch Larry begin to uncurl. Byron's having none of it. He walks over to Larry's corner to prove Larry isn't really there.
Guys, there's no such thing as Larry. It's just your imagination playing tricks on you.
This, Sarah actually hears. The kids' parents are called, and like the little lying weasels they are, they say Oliver hurt Byron. Sarah, you know that's a lie. Byron was across the room when you checked on the kids. Start standing up for your goddamn kid. Oliver manages to write "not me" on a piece of paper, but Sarah doesn't believe him. Instead, she demands to know how he broke every light bulb in the room. Unless you're raising Brightburn, I don't see how he could. It's a tough, frustrating situation, both because Oliver only tries to communicate in short bursts, and over again, these idiots shut him down before he can try again. What she needs to do is pull out some flashcards, or create her own, to try and understand what happened. A simple solution would be to write each of the boys' names on a piece of paper, along with a yes and no card, as well as a card labeled with something else. Basically, create your own cross between a Ouija board and the picture-to-speech app, something you can adjust as you pinpoint details more and more. It would really only take one question to realize something darker is going on. She just needs to ask, who hurt Byron? Once Oliver picks the flashcard labeled something else, we can expand his options and get to the bottom of this. For all she knows, an intruder approached the back door, but you'll never know if she won't even listen to him. At school the next day, Byron is missing, and when Sarah goes to replace the broken bulbs in her house, the iPad teleports from the coffee table to the chair while her back is turned. It's cued to the Misunderstood Monster story. At this point, just finish the frickin' thing. It's all of 30 pages long, and if the demon really is misunderstood, maybe we'll figure out how. She starts to read it out aloud, and Larry puts on his light show for her in the kitchen. When she returns to the living room, all the light bulbs have been replaced. Seriously, can I hire him? Larry loudly stomps through the far hall, drawing her back to the kitchen. Using the iPad, Larry tells her to say goodbye to Oliver. Sarah thinks it's a human predator.
You need to stop. This is not funny, and I won't let you hurt him.
Not hurt.
Yeah, unless David Blaine's practicing a new routine using a giant as his assistant, I don't think those loud, stomping footsteps belong to anything human. Sarah races to school to grab Oliver. She tells him that someone is watching them and wants to take him, which is way more honesty than I was expecting. Unfortunately, yet again, Oliver can't or doesn't confirm her suspicions. Byron's mom calls. Turns out he hasn't slept, eaten, or spoken since the sleepover. Oliver uses the power of SpongeBob to get through to him, and Byron comes clean to everyone, telling their moms that Larry hurt him.
Oliver didn't do anything. It was Larry. I could feel him, his hands around my neck.
To her credit, Sarah believes him. She spirits Oliver home to grab their bug-out bags, but she doesn't pay close enough attention. Oliver sees a blinking light at the far end of the hall. His love of screens compels him into the dark. It's an obvious trap. Oliver follows Larry and watches as the monster drops a yellow sponge on his bed. Larry, you don't need a friend. You need some vitamin D and a lozenge for your throat, my dude. Oliver seems happy with the gift. Who knows? Maybe this is like befriending a raven. Maybe we can train him to bring us better stuff. We'll never know because no one's finished reading Larry's goddamn book yet. Marty is skeptical. Sarah tries to tell him what happened, but she goes with the old, I'm not crazy, some ghost is turning the lights on and off routine, which he doesn't believe. How about you teach Oliver to use his words by example, by saying, someone used the iPad microphone to tell me he was going to take Oliver. That is a much more clear and present danger than a ghost helping you with chores. Marty takes Oliver to work at the parking lot, but it isn't long before he finds Oliver's iPad and summons Larry. Marty pulls him into the office, oblivious that the true danger is already inside the house. Now that Marty can't mansplain away Oliver's haunting, we need to ask the real question. Is Oliver haunted? Or is it only his smart devices? The phones and iPads. Sounds like it's a little bit of both. Marty tells Sarah the last thing he read in the Misunderstood monster story was that Larry targeted Oliver because he doesn't have a true friend. With Oliver's Pictionary skills, they start to realize that Larry's world overlaps with our own, allowing him to visit through screens, but not completely integrate. So, of course, they smash the iPad as a preventative measure. Anyone getting Zoolander vibes? This seems premature to me. The physical device is just a tool. They don't know that Larry was originally in Oliver's smartphone, and they didn't reach that part of the story where it says that screens are a potential doorway for Larry to enter our world. But they should be able to extrapolate that possibility. Like I've been saying, someone needs to read the book. The problem is that the story summons Larry, whether you read it aloud or silently to yourself. So to read it, we either need to sacrifice someone or outsmart our son's superfan. We could sacrifice someone by approaching literally anybody and offering them $20 to read the story aloud to us and Oliver. Maybe you have to fork over 50, but they'd eventually do it. Then we'd have to run like hell away from the iPad, any other electronics, and any building with electricity. This is risky for us because we haven't heard the entire story, and our strategy for escaping him may change depending on what the rest of the story reveals. As for Oliver, they let him watch them beat the iPad to death with hammers, traumatizing him. He starts writing worried notes that Larry needs help. You know why? Because for all intents and purposes, you let Oliver watch you beat Larry to death with hammers. For whatever reason, Sarah starts proudly telling everyone in their lives that they defeated an invisible monster targeting their kid. Of course, no one believes her because it sounds crazy, and for half a second, things start looking up. Oliver tells Byron that Larry is gone, and they learn that their moms were the reason they stopped hanging out when they were little. Sure, Oliver punched Byron, but Byron was over it before the bruise even healed. It was Sarah who told Byron's mom Oliver didn't want to be friends anymore, isolating him from kids his own age. Talk about toxic communication skills. At least Oliver has an excuse. Just as quickly, Larry comes back. Because, of course, it wasn't just the iPad that gave him access to our world. At work, Marty's phone phone floods with Larry's special story, warning that Larry can only stay a little while and will go to dangerous lengths to take a friend before his time runs out. Anyone who gets in his way will meet a horrifying end. The lights snap off around his isolated parking booth. Car sirens turn on and off around him, drawing closer, and Larry locks Marty in his booth. He snaps off the height adjuster on his chair as a weapon. Larry slithers inside the booth, but because everyone in this movie has the attention span of a goldfish, he forgets to keep the doors locked so he can enjoy his Marty snack in peace. Marty rolls out and briefly traps the boogeyman, but it's tough to outrun a monster that can travel along the power lines. Larry lands on Marty's truck and appears in the passenger seat beside him. I think we can all guess the obvious defensive strategy here. In fact, the entire Larry situation has been easy to solve almost from the beginning, but we'll get back to that in a minute. Back at home, Oliver's dead-eyeing his mom like the evil queen in a Disney movie, when Sarah gets the news that Marty was in a crash and has been unresponsive since. The call cuts out and Larry wheezes a hello. She throws the phone, but goes inside to find Larry's turned on the TV. The channels begin flickering again and again, sounding out a message. Larry tells her he'll only go away once they finish the story. She asks why he's there, and he tells her it's because the world is a lonely place full of screen-addicted people. Their loneliness created him. Larry projects his story on the TV, but she refuses to read it. Sarah goes room to room, collecting every screen in the house and tossing them out on the lawn, ignoring her son, who's stimming with anxiety. Instead of comforting him, she yells at him to be normal. They exit the house and watch as Larry moves down the block, gobbling up the electricity. Sarah rushes Oliver inside as Larry emerges from the screen and enters behind them through the door she left completely open. With the Slender Man edition of the aliens from Signs rummaging around their house, blocking the exits, they flee to Oliver's bedroom and hide under the bed of all places. Serve yourselves up like a Christmas pig, why don't you? Sarah apologizes for yelling, but Oliver confronts her about taking Byron away as a friend. She apologizes for that too, finally realizing what I've been saying this entire time, that she should have been listening way better. With a little more trust in Oliver's process, he would have told her about Larry from the start. Kids don't communicate with people who don't listen. He tells her he wants to go with Larry, which makes a sad sort of sense. Larry's the first person in years to treat him like a valuable addition to their life, rather than a problem to fix. Larry stalks closer, and Oliver begins to stim and vocalize, drawing Larry right to their location. Luckily, Sarah has actually learned something. She begins to hum a SpongeBob tune that calms Oliver down. Larry searches for them, his pale, translucent skin slick with moisture and stretched with malnourishment. He calls for Oliver, asking him to come and play. The lights begin to flicker again, and Oliver sees it. Larry's bones and flesh react to the electricity, flickering into being when the lights are on, and disappearing when they're off. Unfortunately, instead of using the paper to communicate, Oliver picks this moment to say his first word. He begins to repeat the word feel. Scary Larry attacks. Sarah tries to pull Oliver away, but he goes for a bat instead, driving home the solution to all of their problems by smashing the lights in the room. Larry begins to scream and writhe. His bones and insides flicker in and out until he disappears altogether. But of course, they don't take the bat with them. That'd be too easy. Oliver leads Sarah outside and goads her to run, ignoring the cars and flickering lights around them until they reach the field where the bullies once lost Oliver's phone. They watch as the neighborhood goes post-apocalyptic around them. Sarah finally figures it out. It's a place where there's no electricity operating anything beyond Larry's reach. Oh, yeah, except for that lost cell phone. Like some sort of horrible spider raptor, Larry pursues them through the long grass. Somehow they lose each other walking around a parked car. That's not an exaggeration. Larry seizes Oliver and hauls him away. then offers Oliver his hand and asks to be friends. Nah, it's like a pact with the devil, only sweeter. Don't do it, Ollie. He hasn't even offered you a golden fiddle yet. Sarah tells Larry she'll be his friend because they both just want to protect Oliver. His bony hand wraps around hers. Offer accepted. God damn. He drained her like a juice box. Larry drags her away into the marshes, and Oliver gives chase, but it's too late. Larry drags her into the phone, and she's gone. They yada yada over how Oliver was found and returned to his life, but whatever. It'd be kind of depressing to watch, so I'm cool with it. Marty's taken over parenting duties in Sarah's absence. Where was all this effort when she was still human, Marty? The bullies become Oliver's friends. Also, a little too late, but B for effort. And in the dead of night, the lights begin to flicker. Oliver follows them. Marty hears him giggling and watches as Oliver dances with an invisible Sarah in the living room. See, Larry's not such a bad guy. He lets Sarah get weekends off for good behavior and everything. Look, you know what I'm gonna say the secret here is. Beyond the obvious lovey-dovey stuff of being a good parent to your kid, as they are, and not how you want them to be. The first step is to read the fine print, as in, read the whole story immediately, while you can, before Larry starts getting handsy. Larry told everyone he had a finite amount of time to find a friend before he would be yanked back into his world. That means we just have to beat out the dawn, so to speak. Second, the flickering lights, the use of screens, and the fact that he literally said electronics were his doors into our world tells us that his range, his power, and his physical form are tied to electricity. So we need to go where there isn't any. We need to embrace our medieval roots for a while and head off grid. You might not know it, but there are still plenty of places in the US and Canada without electricity. Go somewhere remote where you can block the road to all incoming traffic to avoid random drive-bys. Park your own car 5 miles away and hike to your cabin. Invest in propane stoves, an ice cooler, and fishing. There isn't a filming location listed on IMDb, so it's basically genericville, USA or Canada, which means we have to be more general than I'd like to be with our bug out plan. No towns, no highways, yes to deserts, mountains, BLM land. National and state parks with hiking trails and overnight cabins are great. Lakes that haven't been touristed to death are good too. The Great Lakes are a no-go, as massive electrical cables run under large parts of them. It's not all Amish though. Did you notice that Larry only seems to solidify into a terrifying monster at night? It's probably because he needs a lot of electricity to make his body, and we use way more electricity at night than we do during the day. This probably means that during the day, we can make supply runs to town for food and other essentials, so long as we leave the screens elsewhere. He'll have no way to reach us in the boonies. It also means we can test whether Larry's still there safely by visiting town a couple times a week until it seems like he's gone. Then we can confirm he's gone by having Marty hold up an iPad at the edge of town while Oliver and Sarah stand a quarter-mile away down the road and take slow individual steps towards town to see if a reaction is triggered. Of course, Larry is the embodiment of loneliness. He told us that himself. So we're gonna spend our time out in nature doing all the lovey-dovey stuff of reconnecting as a family and getting our son a dog. No joke, 94% of parents with a child on the spectrum who have a dog have claimed that their child was more at ease, calmer, and less prone to stress with a furry friend around. So Fido's joining the family ASAP. Cats, rabbits, mice, and guinea pigs work well too. Basically, don't keep your kid in a bubble. We beat Larry by running out his clock and befriending our kid. Sounds way easier than getting visits from our interdimensional wife on weekends. Because, spoiler alert, that is definitely not Sarah in the living room. That's scary Larry wearing her face, playing with our kid. For those reasons, I think Come Play was beaten. Moral of the story, touch grass, nerd.